I want to start by reassuring you this is not a keynote speech replacing the poor Wolfgang Schäuble stuck in snow of Berlin. It's rather a belated welcome address. So it shows you the degree of flexibility to which we are capable here in the Bundesbank, delivering the welcome address after the conference has started. Thank you very much, Christine, for your very insightful keynote address, and thanks a lot for coming here. It's a pleasure to have you here. Frankfurt Main Finance has attracted, I would say, an impressive list of speakers and panelists. And I would like to single out another one who is quite dear to me, who is Klaas Knot, my colleague from the Governing Council. We are spending the next 2 days together, actually. But it's a pleasure to have you here one day earlier, and I'm looking forward to you and your fellow panelists' discussion. I also wanted to highlight that we have one other special guest who is spending his birthday today with us, Mr. Kirsch. So it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure that you prefer us to your family or your friends. I'm not sure what that tells us about, but anyhow. But let me start, just a brief word about the location. I mean, many of you will know, Christine perhaps doesn't. This is not our central office here, this is our regional office of Hesse. And be assured that the conference venue in our central office is not as nice as the one you're seeing here. So I would say it's a good choice. But when the Bundesbank's predecessor, the Bank Deutsche Länder, was founded in 1948, it took up residence of its headquarters at this very location here in the heart of Frankfurt. And the decision to locate the German central bank in this city rather than in Hamburg, Cologne or Düsseldorf, which at the time were more important financial centers, set the course for the city to become again the financial center of Germany and later on one of the main financial centers worldwide. And the establishment of the European Central Bank in Frankfurt in the 90s has further enhanced the standing of Frankfurt as an international financial center. And as the most recent step in this, I would say, cascade of steps, we can see the decision to establish a joint European banking supervisory mechanism at the ECB. In our technocratic language, it has been given the name SSM, Single Supervisory Mechanism. And as a result, European policymakers have enriched the alphabet soup of European crisis policy with another ingredient, and it already contains numerous similar acronyms: EFSF, ESM, ESRB, SMP, CBPP1 and 2, OMT, LTRO, some MAUs which contain partly PSI, and that's certainly not the whole recipe. And you, Christine, recently said in an interview with the German weekly Die Zeit that we Europeans, and you didn't exclude yourself, which I think is a good sign, use too many abbreviations and technical terms which people from outside of Europe do not understand. And let me add, Christine, to your words that I'm afraid many European people do not understand them either. And this despite the importance of clarity and transparency for the building up of trust in what we are doing currently. Nevertheless, the joint banking supervision is one of the cornerstones of European banking union. And the banking union itself is one of the most far-reaching adjustments to European financial architecture. And the Bundesbank expressly supports the project of a banking union. And as I see it, the banking union should be to improve banking supervision, to ensure a level playing field for banks in the monetary union, to guarantee that investors remain responsible for their investment and avoid potential losses being shifted to taxpayers, and ultimately to improve financial stability in our common currency area. And unlike those who argue that the introduction of the banking union should be done as quickly as possible, I do not believe that the banking union is a quick fix for the resolution of the current crisis. In order to break the vicious circle that you have described, Christine, between national banks and governments, it's important to make the national banking systems more stress resistant. Otherwise, we are just shifting this vicious circle to the European level, and the potential to externalize bad policy decisions is going to increase. And therefore, we should avoid a situation in which national banks are highly vulnerable because they have stockpiled huge amounts of government debt. And towards achieving this objective, one of my suggestions has been to impose a ceiling of banks' holdings of government bonds and requiring that banks back these government bonds, like other types of investments, with capital. And it goes without saying that this is, of course, a policy measure that can be implemented only over the longer term and incrementally, but it should be a consistent and integral part of the banking union. And in addition, that's a point that you highlighted also, Christine, a single supervisory mechanism operating on basis of harmonized rules and stringent standards should be underpinned by a resolution and restructuring mechanism. This is necessary in order to ensure that investors retain responsibility for their investments. And if we go beyond, and you sketched out some potential avenues for this, my conviction is that this would require a far deeper integration in other policy areas that I don't see really a willingness at the current point in time to embark on. Otherwise, we would just contribute to a communitization of risk through the back door. So I will conclude I'm not sure what those remarks actually are, but my remarks by highlighting once more that setting up a banking union is a large-scale institutional project. And in light of recent events, I would refrain from comparing the establishment of a banking union with the construction of other large-scale projects like the construction of an international airport or an underground train station. But the point that I wanted to make is that instead of being hasty, we should going thoroughly on this process. So without further ado, I'm looking forward to the next panel. And I thank you very much for coming here. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you all here. Thank you very much.